We shouldn't glamorize any crime, but the Louvre jewelry theft is really like a movie, isn't it? It was so well planned. Starting with the basket lift platform, which they mounted on the back of a small truck, and then used it to access a first-floor window.
So freaking clever, they bypassed the security at the conventional access routes, which gave them a surprise entry vector.
Of course, the lift also allowed them to present the disguise of maintenance/construction workers, which they capitalized on by wearing high-visibility vests, and to park a truck with a lift near the facade without raising immediate suspicion.
But the highlight for me is that the crane company released a tongue-in-cheek ad campaign featuring the photo of the lift at the museum and the slogan, "When you need to move fast."
Hilarious.
Very slick marketing. Well done to them. The thieves been caught though, haven't they?
As far as I know, 2 suspects, both in their 30s and from the Paris area, have been arrested.
Correct. One of the arrested suspects was apprehended at Charles de Gaulle Airport while attempting to board a flight to Algeria.
Crime doesn't pay, boys. This week, the recent Jaguar Land Rover cyber attack, South African reporting issues under the Protection of Personal Information Act, and a historical recall of Operation Aurora. This is Priviso Live. Welcome, listeners. This is Lynn, joined today, as always, by Stephen and John.
First, the news that Jaguar Land Rover has suffered a large-scale cyber attack, projected to cost around £1.9 billion, with production halted for 5 weeks and a global supply chain disruption affecting about 5,000 businesses.
It's claimed that their IT systems suffered a Category 3 cyber attack. The consequence, a 5-week shutdown of production across its 3 main UK plants. The cost is estimated at £1.9 billion, approximately $2.5 billion, and full recovery is not expected before January 2026.
The supply chain impact rippled out to around 5,000 associated businesses, suppliers, logistics, service providers, who depend on their manufacturing output. UK car production fell by 27% in September, the worst September for the industry since 1952.
The UK government intervened, facilitating a £1.5 billion loan guarantee to help stabilize the supply chain. From a cyber resilience perspective, we see several lessons. Firstly, manufacturing/OT/IT convergence. The attack hit IT systems, but its effect cascaded into manufacturing output. This is a classic IT attack causes OT shutdown scenario.
Then, supply chain risk aggregation. When a single large OEM fails to produce, it triggers widespread knock-on effects across thousands of smaller firms. For each of them, their dependency risk is heightened.
Thirdly, the recovery timeframe. It's not just incident response and remediation. They expect full recovery only by January 2026. That is months away, showing the scale of the aftermath planning required.
In board-level exposure, a loss of £1.9 billion is a board concern. Cyber is now firmly in the territory of enterprise risk, not just IT risk.
So for organizations, even those not at their scale, the questions are, do you map your supply chain dependencies? Do you understand the effects of your critical systems being offline for weeks? What contingency or resilience plans do you have? John, from your view, how might this map into the South African context, especially for companies subject to papaya and operating in global supply chains?
Well, while Jaguar Land Rover is a large global OEM, the lessons are certainly applicable in South Africa. Let's look at the local scene. According to ITweb, cyber threats are rising significantly. The information regulator reports that only a fraction of internal security compromise incidents get reported under the papaya breach notification requirement.
At the end of the 2024/25 financial year, 2,374 security compromise incidents were reported. Between April and September 2025 alone, 1,607 incidents.
The regulator says that many more incidents occur but are not reported, and the regulator lacks sufficient resources to enforce at this scale. What this means in practice, for South African organisations, even mid-sized firms may be underestimating their exposure. If you operate in a supply chain, local or global, then your non-reporting could become a liability.
From a resilience perspective, the scenario where your systems go down for days, so weeks, as with Jaguar Land Rover, may still be considered remote, but the rising threat profile means we must plan for it.
Imagine a South African supplier to a global OEM. If your primary client halts production because of their cyber incident, you may face downstream revenue collapse regardless of your own immediate cybersecurity posture. The supply chain dependencies matter.
Furthermore, from a privacy/data compliance perspective, a major incident causing personal information compromise may compound the damage of regulatory issues, fines, and brand harm. Under Papaya, you must report a breach, open inverted commas, as soon as, close inverted commas, you are reasonably sure that a security compromise has occurred. So for South African CISOs and risk managers, key takeaways. Ensure your incident detection and response capability is sharp. Your breach notification mechanisms are ready. Map your supply chain upstream and downstream dependencies, and consider worst-case scenarios, full shutdown, multi-week outage, reputational cascade. John, maybe you can help tie all this together with historical context, and then we can move into lessons learned.
Well, before we jump into actionable lessons, it's helpful to step back and look at one of the early landmark cyber incidents. Operation Aurora, a series of cyber attacks in 2009, publicly disclosed by Google Inc. in January 2010. Targeting major organizations including Adobe, Akamai, and others.
The attackers exploited zero-day vulnerabilities in Microsoft Internet Explorer and targeted source code repositories and intellectual property assets. The campaign was sophisticated, persistent, and had possible links to state-sponsored actors.
While this was not a manufacturing production shutdown scenario, the key structural features are familiar. Attack chain, lateral movement, supply chain implications, long-tail remediation.
Why is this relevant to Jaguar Land Rover? Because many of the patterns we see now, IT/OT convergence, supply chain risk, prolonged recovery, were foreshadowed by earlier attacks. The difference now is scale, complexity, and the systemic nature of the risk. Manufacturing networks, global supply chains, interconnected services.
So our takeaway, cyber resilience is not new, but the game has changed. We are no longer talking about isolated breaches. We are talking about supply chain collapse potential, industrial scale outages, multi-week shutdowns, and multi-billion-pound losses.
Here are some actionable takeaways we'd recommend for organizations, drawing on Jaguar Land Rover, the local reporting environment, and the historical context. Firstly, map critical dependencies. Know your must-have systems, your OT/IT overlaps, and your upstream/downstream partners. If you go offline for 5 weeks, what happens?
Think about supply chain resilience. Don't just focus on your own cyber maturity. Ask your suppliers and customers, what are their cyber risk controls? Can you continue to service them if they are hit or vice versa?
Understand your response in the event of full shutdowns or extended outages, including manual workarounds, partner communications, and regulatory notifications.
I've been in this situation, Stephen, with my client having to go manual. They kept the business running, but the personal cost was huge. I remember the one director being close to tears, exhausted, and battling to retain his client's trust.
I get it. It's all just DR compliance until you need it.
Aside from which, in South Africa, as we said earlier, under Papaya, you need to report certain breaches, ensure detection, escalation, legal/PR liaison, and remedial actions are ready. The under-reporting environment is a risk in itself.
Losses approaching billions means cyber risk equals enterprise risk. Boards should ask, what's our worst case? What's our remediation plan? What's the business continuity backup?
In summary, The Jaguar Land Rover incident is relevant to all sectors: manufacturing, services, supply chains, and even more so for emerging economy contexts like South Africa, where regulatory and reporting mechanisms may lag the threat environment. Lynn, want to close the show?
Thank you, Stephen and John, and thank you to our audience for tuning into this episode of Priviso Live. Cyber attacks are no longer a technical footnote. They are business disruption events with global supply chain consequences. They interact with regulatory regimes where underreporting remains an issue. And the structural features of risk have been around for a while, as Operation Aurora reminded us. The difference is scale and speed.
For organizations, map your dependencies. Prepare for multi-week outages. Engage your board. Report when you must, and make cyber resilience an enterprise-level priority. We'll be back next week with more perspectives on information security, ICT legislation, and AI risks here in South Africa and beyond. Until then, stay safe, stay informed.
Thank you for listening. Our audience is the reason that we do this. We'd love to hear from you. What are you seeing in your organizations? What questions do you have? Reach out to us on social media or through our website.
If you want to hear more of the same, subscribe to Priviso Live on Apple, Samsung, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or YouTube.
And if you need security, risk, or ICT legislation advice, contact Priviso Consulting directly at admin at priviso.co.za. Stay safe, everyone.